the frustration I have looking back at my own history classes. And I've come to the realization it's not just a US problem, but globally, I think most people don't know the histories of their own countries, political history or otherwise. It is very poorly taught in schools and made to be very boring. Like, I'm looking back on it now. I dare say Michael probably knew more about Jamaican history than most Jamaicans, which is a sad thing to say. But then again, I think I might know a little bit more about U.S. history than most people in the States. So there you go. So I was posting this question to you and the crew. How do we combat this? How do we make history, which is important to contextualize what's going on now, more interesting?
Oh my God.
Especially when people are younger.
Well, I mean, I'm going to ask you, Matt, because you're the history buff here. I loved history growing up, but I reckon I came from like a privileged position where that was kind of emphasized for me. But
can you repeat it for me? Sorry.
He was just asking, how do you make history more fun and digestible for kids so that there's more of a learned understanding?
Oh God.
I know it's so broad. That's why I punted.
Yeah, I mean, for kids.
And important.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the way to fundamentally make anything seem important is that you need to see how it translates to empower them in the real world. So I think actually when the types hit sort of Marxist history or history of exploitation along different sorts of identity lines, like I think those are important for people to have awareness to, because it allows you to like understand your place in the world and why you've been sort of placed into historical circumstances and fight it. But I mean, these are heady things for a kid, and so I don't know. That's I gotta say I'm more focused on, I guess, the college age kids. But go on.
No, the reason why I brought this up, Matt, especially since you're the history buff, and I do enjoy watching your stuff because I learn a lot and contextualize stuff. I'm looking back at my younger days and the amount of pitfalls I could have avoided if history was more of an interesting topic to me when in my youth, right? But the way it's taught is so dry, so boring.
Well, I have a quick thing. I would say it needs to be. That's why we always like to talk on TMBS about illicit history, because there is like the dry history. But the reason that's dry isn't because history's dry. It's because the history taught in schools is done by committee among like reactionaries and liberals, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not.
Exactly.
But we actually have. I mean, now it's the availability of genuine history that gets to the truth of things. Like this is why I'm fascinated with the diary of this William Byrd II, Virginia plantation owner, because you actually see how preoccupied he is with, whipping somebody because they didn't boil his bacon well enough, and also like how often people are running away, and the Tuscarora War breaks out, and his main enthusiasm as they go to meet allied tribes is to try to kiss Native women. You can make a lot of these arguments, but actually, like, there is something to accessing something that's hidden from you. And so I would say that's probably the best frame, is like, tell them what the bad authority figures don't want them to know, would be probably the easiest way to get through to a kid.
Yeah. And I mean,
I guess this is a little. Sorry to interrupt, Eva. I guess I just want to get a little rant out of the way.
Yeah.
What I'm more disturbed by is, as growing up and still to this day, and speaking from my own country, I'm pretty sure there's similar instances because, as different countries, we seem to do the same type of stuff. I see more people focused on studying, like, Bible stuff, right? Which Bible myths and whatnot, more than actual history, and that still seems to be popular. So I'm not sure what type of techniques they're using to kind of string people along with that one, especially the younger folks. So that's a little rant on my.
But that goes back to what I said about, does it be shown to empower you? And the truth is, in a lot of societies, going along with the religious orthodoxy is insanely empowering. It gets you into clubs, it gets you sort of connections. So even though the actual like fundamental reality of it's not pointing to anything real, it is a way to empower yourself in real life. And I mean, that's a difficult thing to undo. It's sort of undoing itself, I think, more as the world secularizes. Then, because I wouldn't say, you know, we need to make atheism a priority as the left. I don't think that would be
no.
thing. But yeah, but I get what you're saying.
Well, it just empowers you in terms of like the way brute patriotism empowers people too. I mean, you get to feel like you're like a part of a manifest destiny, essentially. That's the extension of it.
And you know, on the opposite end.
Oh wait, hold on. Bradley's weighing in.
If I may.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Bradley.
On the opposite end of that, in terms of, I think the other problem is, if it's not satisfying that, it's not also satisfying like the civic religion in America. Like, and like from my perspective, from like, you know, New Jersey public schools, like, for example, and this is just because I'm Iranian as well, so it also is close to home. Like the 1953 coup is something that is incredibly fascinating, but also incredibly a massive indictment on American foreign policy and American meddling in other countries. That is not, you know, as emphasized, because even though, yes, it's interesting, yes, it's compelling, it's a massive repudiation of any sort of myth or civic religion that would potentially be, you know, steered by school boards wanting to still kind of, regardless of any sort of liberal or conservative bent, not really go too steered by school boards wanting to still kind of, regardless of any sort of liberal or conservative bent, not really go too far into saying, you know, America did some pretty bad stuff overseas, and because it didn't really comport with their economic goals or motivations.
Appreciate it, Dave.
New Bradley.
Thanks for taking my call. You guys take care.
Yeah, Bradley nails it, right? Later.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.